We are hereby inviting you to observe how we can make a homemade water floating structure. We are going to use the following materials. Some of the materials include this kind of beams. They must be long. And we have these small ones which are connectors. You are supposed to have floaters. Floaters can be containers, empty containers. 8 of them are enough. Each container must have a cap. This is a cap. And the cap must be tight. It must be airtight. You can use polythene to enforce the tightness. You must use an airtight cap so that there is no water which is leaking into the container.
Preferably the new one.
Preferably, you are supposed to use new containers. The containers must be airtight. They must not allow any amount of water to enter inside. So you must be having a tape measure. You must be having a nail, a binding wire. You must be having a hammer and nails. So these are nails. These ones are to drive nails. These ones are going to make joints. You also must have a panga or a machete to cut sizes of beam and connectors. You also need a hand saw to cut the beams into pieces. Measure 15 centimeters on the first beam. Measure 15 centimeters. Ensure it is 15 centimeters. It is 15 feet. This way, you must cut the beam at 15 feet. So this is 1 out of 4 beams which are required. Make sure you cut the rest at the same length. So you cut all at 15 feet. So you have 4 beams, each measuring 15 feet, and then you are supposed to divide one of the beam into half. That is 7.5 feet. That one half is going to be used for connection. These remaining pieces can be used as connectors. You have to ensure that the beam is smooth. That's why you have to remove all the hooks. Also make 2 pieces of beam, each measuring 2.5 feet. Then you can split the 2.5 feet beam into 2 to have 4 pieces. Okay, so those are 4 pieces, each measuring 2.5 feet. Arrange your beams in this manner. The crossing beam must be halfway, so it must be 7.5 feet. So this one must be at the center. That is 7.5 feet. Make sure they are located at the center, 7.5 feet. Okay, you are supposed to position the container like this so that it is going to fit between the 2 beams. The beams must be fitting with the container. Make sure you fit on both sides. So join the pieces together. You can drive that using a nail and hammer. The nails must be about 5 inches. Also put a beam at the end of the middle beam, measuring 7.7 feet, and then place it at the middle to share 7 by half, so it is going to be 3.5 feet, and then you can nail. These are joints for support. So join. Arrange your airtight containers in all corners. One must be at the center. You can put as many containers as possible. The more the containers you have, the more the stability and the higher the floating ability. And in this case, our structure is very firm and strong. It will float. Then you are supposed to tie them tightly. Use binding wires to connect the containers with the beam, with the frame of the beam of the structure. Then fasten the wire tightly on the frame. To ensure that the container never moves. Make sure you tie all the rest tightly. Then we are going to lift our structure. Now we are ferrying it to the water. We are dipping our structure into water. So this is how we put it into water. Obviously the front side will float. Benny. So our structure is inside the water. As you can see, it has floated. And that's where the final construction will take place. So we then join. Remember this work, we are doing it inside water now. So the next step involves making the floor of our structure, making the walls of the structure, we have just lost our hammer. So these are the risks associated with this job. And now we have our structure ready to roll in water. Haya. you can see our structure floating in water and it's moving. This can now be used to ferry luggages and other heavy materials that cannot float in water. Let us measure the depth of water. That's how deep the water body is. Structure suitable for fishing and using for any floating structure can be used now.